In Automa, the context for web automation is simply the web page you've opened in your browser. And every time you open a web page object gets created. So how do you get the web page object? In Automa, if you need to open a new web page, just go to Web Automation and find the Open Web Page. Let's say right now I want the bot to open Automa's official website. You can choose a browser based on your computer's internal environment, but first, you need to install the corresponding browser extension. Let's use Google Chrome as an example. First, click the three dots in the top right of the canvas and select Plugins. This will show all plugins supported by Automa. Find Google Chrome, click Install, and here I will force quit first. Wait a few seconds, and the plugin will be installed. Once Google Chrome reopens, find the plugin icon in the top right, select Manage Extensions, turn on Developer Mode in the top right, and make sure Automa's plugin is enabled. That's it. The Google Chrome plugin is installed. The process for installing plugins on other browsers is mostly similar. If you run into issues during installation, you can check Automa's official documentation. Okay, let's get back to configuring the command. In the URL field, enter the specific URL, and the output will be the web page object for Automa's official website with the default name web page. It's best to give the object a clear content-related name to make it easier to use later. Here, I'll rename it to Automa site. Run it. And the web page will open normally, then this web page object is also obtained by Automa at the same time. So how do you get a web page that's already open? If I want the bot to automatically match the Automa official website I just opened, how should I go about it? Actually, Automa has a ready-made command to solve this problem, get specified web page. First, disable the earlier open web page, double-click Get Specified Web Page, leave the browser type set to Google, and set the matching mode to either URL or title. Of course, you can also match the active web page dot. To make the result more obvious, I'll add a print. After this one, this command lets us view some information. In FX, find the web_page we just created. Click the drop-down button, and you'll get the web page's URL and title. Here I choose to print the URL, then click Done. Run it to check the effect. The browser window gets activated. At the same time, the log also prints the web page's URL, which means the web page object was obtained correctly. Now I'll manually open another web page. It's Automa's homepage on YouTube. If I run the app again at this point, which web page object will be obtained? Let's run it again. You'll see the printed URL is no longer Automa's official website, but the newly opened Automa YouTube homepage. Here's why. No matter how many browser tabs the specified browser has opened, the active method will only match the activated page. Since the currently activated page in the browser is Automa's YouTube homepage, the system gets this page's object and outputs its URL. Now let's think about a question. Why do we need objects? In other words, why do we need context? Let's imagine a scenario. I want the robot to open web page A and web page B, then click element X on web page A. But if I don't clearly tell the robot which web page element X is on, the robot will get confused. The correct way is to open web page A, then rename this web page object to page A. After that, when using click element, select the specified web page object, and the app will run smoothly. With objects, referencing and identifying specific instances in the workflow becomes easier and more accurate. Earlier, we've mentioned the concept of element repeatedly. So what is element? Element is our target. It can be a button, an input field, a piece of text, or a drop-down menu. The essence of an element is a visual component on the user interface. RPA robots work by simulating your actions to identify and operate these elements. Without elements, automation can't interact with app programs. Before operating an element, you first need to capture a specified element. Capturing an element in Automa is super simple. At the bottom of the interface, there's a Capture Element button in the top right of Elements. Click it, and the interface will dim to enter the aiming state. Hover your mouse over the target, and a red highlight box will pop up. Hold down the curl key and left-click. Then the element is captured. Similarly, element names need to be super intuitive. You should know exactly which element it is just by looking at the name. It's best to standardize the naming as Platform Interface Name. Here, I'll name it Automa. Main book demo. Next, we can click Verify to check the element, and there are no issues. Finally, click Done, and the element is captured. Captured elements are stored in the element library below. If you need to recapture an element, just find it and double-click to reopen its editing interface. Here, you can recapture it, rename it, or readjust its properties. If you want to delete some unused elements, use the right side drop-down option, Show Unused Elements, to locate them. Right-click the element and you'll see the Delete option. Additionally, you can right-click an element to view its references in Global. Finally, elements from the same web page or software are automatically organized into a folder for easier management. Once we've precisely identified the target by capturing it, the next step is to perform the action. Common element operations fall into two categories. 1. Interaction, like click element, fill text field, hover over the element, drag the element, set the drop-down, set the checkbox, wait for the element. 2. Retrieval, like get the element object, get related element, get element details. Each of these operations has a corresponding command to perform them, and we will introduce them in detail in later lessons.